Greetings and salutations, everybody. Sean, and today I want to talk to you about Star Wars. More specifically, I want to discuss Star Wars The Last Jedi, how Luke Skywalker was depicted in that movie, and the fan response to that depiction. Now, there are a lot of people who didn't like the way Luke Skywalker was depicted in The Last Jedi. There's a lot of people who thought that it was disrespectful to the character, that it was uncharacteristic of Luke Skywalker. And they felt that the movie itself took a huge dump on not only Luke Skywalker, but the entire Star Wars lore. I personally disagree. I liked the Last Jedi. I like how Luke Skywalker was depicted in the movie, and I also felt that it was not disrespectful. And I thought that it did fit with the character. It fit with the character. It was not unbelievable to see where he would get to that spot where he got to in the Last Jedi. And this is what I want to talk about in this movie or this video. Now, the two biggest complaints in regards to Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi was that a lot of people thought that he wouldn't have tried to kill Ben Solo in his sleep, or wouldn't even contemplate killing Ben Solo in his sleep. And also, he wouldn't have exiled himself for however many years he exiled himself in the movie. So, those are the two biggest complaints that I hear. Maybe there's a couple of other little nitpicks, but I think those are the two really main concerns or main complaints that people have. So those are two I want to address. First and foremost, let's talk about the exile thing. Now, Luke Skywalker addresses this in the movie to a certain extent, Last Jedi. Now, Luke Skywalker exiled himself due to the events that happened between him and Ben Solo. Luke Skywalker admits that he felt such guilt and shame. So he felt such guilt and shame not only in contemplating killing his nephew and his slash student, but he also probably feels guilt in regards to the fact that the rest of his students, and with the exception of the one that Kylo took with him, also were murdered by Ben Solo. So there's the guilt in that would probably cause him to want to take a little bit of time away and self-reflect. So that's what Luke Skywalker does. He takes some time away and does a little bit of self-reflecting. Now, when he's self-reflecting, he's probably thinking about a whole host of things. He's probably thinking about who he is now, where he was, his childhood, his upbringing. He's probably thinking about, how he's probably thinking about the events that happened in the original trilogy, meeting R2 and the meeting and discover that he's Jedi and has Force sensitive and his father's Vader and he has a sister and the entire adventure he went through. He's probably thinking about all that. And thinking about the Jedi, he's probably, and of course, he states that he read the Jedi text, so he knows about the Jedi's history and their legacy. And, he's thinking about those things. And he even says in the movie that the Jedi has a legacy of failure due to their hubris. At the height of their power, he says this, at the height of their power, the Jedi allows for the rise of the Empire, Darth Sidious the Emperor, and the creation and rise of Darth Vader. So, at the height of the Jedi's power, due to their hubris, they allow for the rise of the single greatest threat that the galaxy has ever witnessed. So Luke Skywalker, so it's not hard to believe, it's not beyond the realm of possibility to believe that Luke Skywalker comes to the conclusion that, okay, what good has the Jedi Order brought overall? And he's probably thinking, well, if they have a legacy of failure, and he's thinking about his own failures, then Luke Skywalker should probably saying to himself, well, there's no need for the Jedi religion. There's no need for the Jedi religion. There's no need for Jedi. Since I am the last remaining Jedi, I'll just go off into exile, and maybe the galaxy will be fine. A lot of people say, well, Luke Skywalker's the most hopeful character in the galaxy. He wouldn't give up. You don't know what people are going to do. Even the most hopeful person can go through dark times, and that's what Luke Skywalker was going through. Luke Skywalker, whatever the events that happened, and the time span that Luke Skywalker went through with the events of Ben Solo and where he was in The Last Jedi, that was Luke Skywalker's dark period. Luke Skywalker, you could say that he was in a severe state of depression. That was his dark time. He was going through a personal struggle. He was going through a challenge. He was going through a test, an internal struggle. Now, a lot of people out there, and you know what that's called in movies and TV shows and storytelling? That's called character development. That's called, character growth. That's called an arc that the character goes through. Now, a lot of these people who claim that they don't like Star Wars The Last Jedi will also claim that it is not a good movie, and they will claim it's technically not a good movie. And I see a lot of these internet critics in regards to this movie and other movies, they'll point out all kinds of things like story, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, character development, story arcs, this, that, and the other thing. They'll list the whole technical aspects of storytelling, right? So so either they know what they're talking about or they want to pretend they know what they're talking about in regards to how stories are crafted and how they are developed. Or at least, what the general guidelines. I say guidelines because I don't think there are any necessary rules. But anyway, there are guidelines that are set forth. So these people, they argue about character development and growth and how some characters, or let's just talk about the character Ray for a second. They'll talk about the character Ray and they'll go, I don't like this character because she's one dimensional, she hasn't had any struggle, she hasn't had any conflict, everything comes easily for her. So they'll bash this character for not having any struggles or any type of conflict externally or internally, at least ones that they can see. But yet they ignore the fact that that is exactly what Luke Skywalker is going through. He's going through an intense internal struggle that he has to overcome in order to go through yet another character arc. See what I'm talking about? So I like what they did with the character, and I don't feel that it was out of character at all in regards to him exiling himself. And also, to sit and say that Jedi would never exile himself in time of need. Now, well, you know what? Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi both exiled themselves. Now, I know what people are going to say. People are going to go, well, Obi-Wan Kenobi exiled himself because he had to protect Luke Skywalker. He stayed on Tatooine in exile because he had to protect Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker and Leia were both born. They were both separated, so that way it would be harder for the Empire to find them if the Empire discovered their existence. And at the time, the Empire didn't know about their existence. Darth Vader didn't know about the existence of his children. He didn't find out later until the original trilogy. At least that's what I get from it. I haven't read any novelizations or anything, so if there's something I missed, I'm sure people will correct me on it. But Darth Vader didn't know he had children until the original trilogy movies came out. So nobody was looking for these kids. And let's just sit and think. Okay, let's think about this for a second. Now, Obi-Wan Kenobi stayed back to watch Luke Skywalker, but how long was he going to stay back to watch Luke Skywalker? How long did he need to stay back to watch Luke Skywalker? Because, you know, Luke Skywalker, let's just say that R2-D2 never crossed paths with Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker never met R2, then he never would have had to go talk to Ben Kenobi, then he never would have met up with Princess Leia, or who knows how things would have happened. He never would, his path would have been completely different than what it was in the movies. He probably never would have found out that he was Force sensitive. He probably never would have found out about the Force. He probably never would have found out that Darth Vader, that is his father, and Darth Vader was once a man called Anakin Skywalker. And Anakin Skywalker was the chosen one. He never would have found any of this stuff out. Luke Skywalker would have either ended his life on his Uncle Owen's farm. He probably would have remained on Uncle Owen's farm, working the farm, or he would have went off and joined the rebellion. And in joining the rebellion, who knows what would have happened to Luke Skywalker? Because and one of the things that people like about Luke Skywalker is that, and again, I'm doing a comparison to Rey. Like about Luke Skywalker over Rey is that Luke Skywalker gets in trouble. He needs to get rescued. He needs to get saved. Well, if Luke Skywalker never knew he was Force sensitive, then how many times could he have lucked out and been saved before he would have got killed or seriously injured? Look at the events that happened in regards to how he was able to blow up the Death Star. Now, it was use of the Force. It was after he learned the knowledge of the Force, he was able to do that. Able to destroy the Death Star in that regard. So, and then also, and history would have changed what they even had to plan. But long story short, everything would have changed. So, really, when was Ben Kenobi going to let Luke Skywalker know who he was and what his lineage was? From what I understand, wasn't there like an arrangement or deal with his Uncle Owen that Ben Kenobi never tells him about his father or never tells him about his legacy, who he is, where he comes from? So when was Ben Kenobi going to do this? Was Ben Kenobi ever going to tell him this? Was Ben Kenobi ever going to do this? To my personal opinion, I don't think Ben Kenobi ever was. I don't think Ben Kenobi was ever going to sit down and tell Luke Skywalker the truth of who he is and who his family was. I don't think he was ever going to do that. So Ben Kenobi was, and the Empire and Vader had no idea who Luke Skywalker was or his existence. So Ben Kenobi could have could have joined the Resistance, could have went back and fought the Empire and fought Darth Vader. Now, maybe there's a small chance that Ben Kenobi was afraid that if Vader or the Empire sensed that he could use the Force to sense, and he would have discovered that he had children that way. But there are still other ways that Ben Kenobi could have helped out without having to be directly involved in fighting with Vader or the Emperor. He could have done other missions or what have you, but he chose not to. He chose to stay exiled. He pulled himself completely out of the fight. Same thing with Yoda. Yoda is 800-year-old is an 800-year-old Jedi Master, more powerful than Ben Kenobi. I'm pretty sure Yoda could have easily resisted anything that Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader sent at him. Emperor, Darth Sidious, I'm not, different story possibly, but still, Yoda could have still stayed in the fight. Yoda still could have been an active member of the Resistance, but Yoda chose to run and hide. And Yoda never rejoined the fight. Yoda never did anything. He never rejoined. He decided I'm gonna live my life out on Dagobah. And you know what? I fought my fight. And I'm done with it. So it's not beyond. So to sit and say that the Jedi would never, and there's no excuse. I know people have their excuses and everything. People go, well, but Luke Skywalker had a family. He had Ben Solo, his family. He had Leia, his family. He would have just went off and left his family. Yes, he would have. People do that all the time. It's not uncommon, it's not uncharacteristic for people to leave their families, especially when somebody goes through such a traumatic event. Falls into a state of depression and darkness. I've seen stories in regards to homeless people. There's these people who their life something happens in regards to life. They end up homeless on the street, and then they cut off all contact and ties to their family that they love, family that they care about, family that they cherish, because they're too broken and too ashamed to admit to their family that they allowed themselves to get to this point. Same with Luke Skywalker in regards to him exiling himself. Now, I know a lot of people sit there, and of course, and I think Luke's story arc was, in regards to, we have the Force Awakens, and then you have what the whole movie is about: a map finding Luke Skywalker. There's a map for Luke Skywalker. We need to find Luke Skywalker. We need to get Luke Skywalker back. And then, Last Jedi was sort of centered around, well, not centered around, had various things, but I think the whole concept of it all in regards to Luke was giving Luke being that hope that inspires the galaxy again. He reignites the hope in the galaxy because the galaxy needs hope right now. But the problem is, Luke Skywalker lost his hope. So Luke Skywalker has to find hope in order for him to act in a way that inspires the galaxy and gives the galaxy hope. That's textbook storytelling right there. Now, if you want to complain about it, if you don't like how it was executed, that's fine. But you cannot deny that is textbook storytelling, the whole thing. Now, let's talk about Ben Solo. Let's talk about him trying to murder Ben Solo in his sleep, or at least contemplating, oh, but Luke Skywalker would never do that. Why would he never do that? Did you watch the movie? Did you pay attention to the dialogue? Did you watch the prequels? Even the prequels. Did you watch the original trilogy? Luke Skywalker in that scene with Ben Solo, what happened was, he said he looked inside of Ben. So he used the Force to look inside Ben Solo, and he saw that he was completely corrupted by Snoke. He saw that he was completely turned to the dark side. Now, a lot of people will sit there, and a lot of people will sit there and they'll point out that Luke Skywalker saw light in Darth Vader. Luke Skywalker, reason why he wouldn't try to kill Ben Solo is because he saw the light in Darth Vader. He didn't give up hope on Darth Vader. And that's where people make this claim that Luke Skywalker is a character of hope, because he had hope in regards, he had faith and hope in regards to his father coming back from the dark side, because he could sense the light in his father. Well, the difference between Ben Solo and Anakin Skywalker or Darth Vader is simply this. Luke Skywalker sensed the light in Darth Vader. He sensed that Anakin was still in there. He did not sense anything with Kylo Ren. He sensed nothing but pure pitch black darkness in Kylo. Now, if you want to argue whether or not Luke was right or wrong, that's a whole other argument in of itself, because with Darth Vader, Obi-Wan couldn't sense any good in him. The Emperor couldn't sense any good in him. The Yoda didn't sense any good left in him, but Luke was the only one who sensed good in him. Luke was the only one who didn't give up on his father, because he felt that there was still good inside of his father. So, could it be a situation where Luke looks at Kylo and goes, I don't sense any good, and then somebody else will come in and go, well, I can see a little bit of light in him? That is completely possible, but we have to look at it through Luke's perspective. Luke's perspective of who he is now after going through everything he's went through his entire life. Luke looks at Kylo Ren and he sees no light in Kylo. Zero. So automatically he's gonna go, well, this kid is gone. And then these are the important parts right here. Then an impulsive reaction out of fear. Now let's keep in mind that, let's look at Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker has been a pretty, look at the flaws of Luke Skywalker as pointed out in the movies. Luke Skywalker was often manipulated by Vader and the Emperor, and they used his fear and anger to manipulate him. Now keep in mind, in the original movies, what Yoda explains to Luke the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to the dark side, hate leads to darkness. First there's the fear, then there's anger, and then there's hate. And that's true in real life. In true life, there are people who they get afraid of something, and they're so pumped up with that adrenaline of fear. So it's the fight or flight aspect. And if it's the fight aspect, well, obviously you have to that fear has to channel itself into something else other than fear, so it has to channel itself to rage, or to anger, which can channel itself to rage. And once you're in a rage, it's very easy to start to go off into hate. So Luke immediately had the fear, and he had an impulsive reaction, because Luke Skywalker grew up in a time that was ruled by the Empire. He grew up at a time where he was able to witness the evils that the Empire had committed, or the evils that the Empire had committed. He witnessed those, what he would call the dark times, or what somebody would call the dark times of being under the rule of the Empire, under the rule of the Emperor Darth Sidious. So he knew the type of pain and suffering that Kylo could potentially bring. So in that brief moment in time, he's sitting there thinking, I could save the lives, I could prevent the suffering and killing of billions of people by ending this person right here and now. But he doesn't. Now again, let's just look at the whole legacy of Luke Skywalker, the Skywalkers again. Because in the original trilogy, Yoda points out Luke's ability to focus, and that was one of the things that he had to learn, he had to go through. Was Yoda points out, like, you're always looking to the horizon. You're always looking to the future, always looking to the horizon, never paying attention to what's in front of you, never paying attention to the task at hand. And then there's the moment where Luke Skywalker decides to cut his training early to leave Dagobah and go save his friends. And of course, because and they told him that, and Yoda told him that, and even Obi-Wan Kenobi told him it's a trap. They know that they can use your friends to get to you. They know that they can use them to get to you. Your fear of losing your friends, they know they can use that to get to you, and you're gonna go. And that's what Luke Skywalker did. He went, and everything worked out fine. But still, Luke Skywalker's fear causes him to react out certain ways. Look at Return of the Jedi, where he's confronting the Emperor and he's confronting Vader. Right? Luke Skywalker is pretty fine and he's pretty confident up until the point to where the Emperor reveals that the Emperor that he knows about the rebels' plans and that the shield will remain operational and that when the rebel fleet arrives, they will be ready and prepared for them, and all the rebels and all Luke Skywalker's friends and companions will die. Well, then you see that start to get to Luke. And the Emperor knows this, the Emperor senses this, and Vader senses this, so the Emperor keeps prodding Luke Skywalker. He keeps poking at him. And the Emperor tells him, like, your friends are gonna die, and there's nothing you can do about it. Or maybe you can if you just strike me down. Just take your lightsaber and strike me down. Use all your hate and anger. And Luke gives into it. Luke takes the lightsaber out of anger, out of fear and anger, and he tries to strike the Emperor down. Now Vader blocks it, of course, and saves the Emperor. Or, you know what, who knows, maybe the Emperor would have been able to protect himself at the very last second and dodge it or stop the lightsaber from reaching him. Who knows, but that's another um, argument altogether. But the fact of the matter is, Luke Skywalker, out of an emotional state, excuse me, tries to strike down the Emperor. And of course, him and Vader have a battle. And you can tell Luke Skywalker is still somewhat emotional, but he's able to keep it in check. He's able to keep it in check while he's fighting. And even gets to a point to where he's able to start to calm himself down, start to center himself again. And then Vader's walking through him and Vader's talking to him. And then Vader senses something in Luke. And Vader goes, wait a second, a sister. You have a sister. Which basically means I have a daughter. So Vader decides to use that against Luke. No, either Vader's using that against Luke to try to get Luke to react a certain way, or maybe because Vader goes, if you won't join me, maybe she will. So maybe Vader's using that to go to Luke, or maybe Vader was serious and he goes, yeah, I'm serious. If you're not going to join me, I'll kill you. I'll go get her, and maybe we could turn her. And then Luke attacks with such a rage. Now, previously in that battle, it was relatively even. Now, obviously, you could tell where Luke Skywalker is probably holding back to a certain degree, but it's still a relatively even fight. But at that moment, it became a completely one-sided fight. Vader could do nothing against Luke. Luke and his rage overpowered Vader, and Luke Skywalker just hammered down on Vader with the lightsaber, and Vader had it up and was blocking, but that's all he could do was just sit there and block him. And then Luke cuts off his hand, and Luke was poised and ready to strike and kill him down. Now, I can't remember exactly what happened after that, because I know Darth Sidious or Emperor Palpatine or whoever, but the Emperor comes walking down the steps, and the Emperor says something like, yeah, strike him down. Complete your transformation to the dark side, or something like that, whatever the line is. I can't recall if Luke Skywalker stopped before the Emperor said something or after. I wonder if the Emperor ever would have came down, would Luke Skywalker have taken that final swing on Vader? I don't know. We could speculate and say that he would or he would not. I don't know. I'm not really sure. But all I know is Luke Skywalker was caught up in rage, and he reacted, and he could have easily killed Vader at any moment during that fight, or especially during that rage. And of course, after the Emperor comes down, then Luke again regains his senses and says, I'll never join you. I'm a Jedi just like my father before me. And he throws a lightsaber down. And of course, we all know how that movie ends. And of course, if you even want to go back further into the Skywalker lineage, we can look at Anakin Skywalker. Anakin Skywalker was tempted by the dark side and joined the dark side. Now, how did Anakin Skywalker do this? Well, Anakin Skywalker, obviously he had several issues. He was impatient, as is Luke. Anakin Skywalker, he's a young kid discovered by the Jedi. He's told and he's raised. He's a young kid discovered by the Jedi. He wins his freedom, and he's no longer a slave, but his mother's still a slave. but he with his freedom, he's able to go back with the Jedi, train as a Jedi in the Jedi Order, and he's led to believe that he's this chosen one. But yet, while he's this chosen one that everybody believes is going to bring balance to the Force, they constantly hold him back. They don't let him do anything. They don't let him advance. They don't let him whatever. For whatever reason, the Jedi, the Jedi don't do so. No, so this frustrates him. And on top of that, he is ruled. Every decision he made that leads him to the dark side is ruled by fear. He lost his mother. I think I think his mother eventually became free and she was living somewhere, and then she ended up being killed by some sand people. And then this caused a rage in Anakin Skywalker, and he goes and he kills the sand people that murdered his mom. And then, of course, he falls in love with Padme, and this whole thing is about not wanting to lose the people he loves. That's his biggest weakness. That's his biggest problem. Not wanting to lose anybody he cares about. He wants to protect everybody he cares about. That's his biggest fear. And the Emperor, and then, of course, Palpatine, Senator Palpatine, uses this to manipulate Anakin Skywalker to come over to the dark side. So here you have Anakin Skywalker being tempted to the dark side by his fear, and then of course here you have Luke Skywalker being tempted to the dark side by his fear, because that's the whole thing. Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to darkness. So to sit there and say, I don't care how much of a Jedi Master Luke is, how long or how much time has passed, how much training and discipline Luke Skywalker has, he's going to have moments where he falters. And again, we as the audience, according to the internet critics, we have to have characters with flaws. We have to have characters who falter. If not, then they become stale. That's what Luke does. He falters, but he regains it. So to sit here and say that that's uncharacteristic is just plain wrong. Now I'm not sure where you get it that Luke Skywalker would ever do this. Maybe it's your idealized version of Luke Skywalker would never do this, but the reality is it fits with the character. It fits with the character of Luke Skywalker. But you know what else fits with the character of Luke Skywalker? The fact that he didn't do it. The fact that immediately after he had the thought, because he said it was a fraction of a second or it's just a fleeting moment, he immediately realized what he was doing. He immediately regretted it, and he did not do it no more, because that's what heroes do. Here's what a hero does. Here's what the traditional hero is supposed to do. Traditional hero is supposed to do the right thing in the face of impossible odds. Now, even if the face of the impossible odds is, even if it's something that they themselves start to act on, they stop. It would have been so much easier for Luke just to have killed Ben Solo. So much easier. It would have saved so much time, so much trouble, would have prevented a whole lot of stuff. But Luke, being the hero, goes, I can't cross that line. I cannot cross this line and murder a defenseless kid in his sleep. That's not what a hero does. So he stops. Now, unfortunately, the events played out as they played out. Now, what would have happened if Kylo Ren never would have knew Luke was there? What would have happened if Kylo Ren never would have woke up? What would have happened? Well, it is reasonable to believe that Luke Skywalker would have made the attempt to help Ben Solo. It is very reasonable to believe. Maybe Luke Skywalker would have taken Ben Solo off to some island somewhere and then disabled the ship to where Ben Solo could not leave, and worked with Ben Solo to bring him back to the light and get rid of the influence of Snoke. Maybe Luke Skywalker would have done that had Ben Solo not woken up, discovered him, and reacted the way he reacted. Maybe, who knows? I would tend to think that that's how Luke Skywalker would happen. But that one brief little moment, there was action, there was a consequence. and unfortunately that's what happened. So again, did they crap on Luke Skywalker? No, they did not. Were they not true to the character of Luke Skywalker? Were they untrue to the character of Luke Skywalker? No, they were not untrue to the character of Luke Skywalker. They were very true to the character of Luke Skywalker. And I don't want to sit here and try to. I don't want to sit here and just flat out state that people have a problem with because they have these idealized versions of Luke Skywalker that they built up in their head, and that's built up in fan fiction, and that's built up everywhere else. But I do think that it plays a part into it. I think that they see Luke Skywalker from the original trilogy, they see him as the hero in the end, and he ends the movie as a hero, so you expect your heroes to grow, to go on, and to be even more triumphant and even more heroic, and to grow and become these great legends, which Luke Skywalker even points out in the movie. He goes, all these failures happened because I was a legend. And he looks at it as a bad thing. So anyway, long story short, I think I've discussed this enough. So I'm just gonna end by saying, I felt that I don't think the Last Jedi crapped on Luke Skywalker. I don't think it crapped on the lore of anything that came before because there was nothing that was stated in the Last Jedi that was false in regards to whatever it hinted at in in regards to the past, and the past is what we look at as the original trilogies and the previous trilogies. There's nothing in those. There's nothing in the Last Jedi that was a lie or that was false. Everything that was stated in regards to the Jedi failing, their rise of the Empire, was fact. Luke Skywalker. I don't think, like again, he was not out of character. He was not depicted poorly. He just wasn't depicted the way people expected him to be depicted. And I liked it. I liked it. I liked the movie. I liked The Force Awakens. I liked The Last Jedi. I'm looking forward to episode 9. Do I know what's going to happen in episode 9? No, I don't. I have no idea where they're going to go. I could speculate, but, I don't know. But I'm still excited to see this. Now, could these movies have been done a little bit better? Are they bad movies? No, they're not bad movies. If you think I refuse to believe these are bad movies. Opinions, again, this is one of those things that's subjective or objective or whatever the case may be. People have differences of opinion. I may think the movie's great. You may think the movie's bad. Someone might think the movie's okay. Those are my thoughts in regards to Star Wars: The Last Jedi and the depiction of Luke Skywalker. I enjoyed the movie. I like it. I'm looking forward to episode 9. No idea what they're going to do with it. So, yeah, I think that's all I really have to say about this. So, until next time, I will catch you on the flip side.